Hey everybody, Sam here with a little update. The life of a Muppet podcaster isn't as easy as it looks, so we're taking a week off. Despite what Matt says at the end of this episode, next week, May 30th, there will not be a new commitment, but we'll be back on June 6th. Now enjoy this episode with special guest, Hal Lublin.
Why are there so many shows starring Muppets and dozens of movies too? They said they'd watch everyone and they mean it. It's something that they've got to do. So now they've pledged you a lifelong commitment. Muppets, Matthew and Sam.
Welcome to Commitment, the podcast where two friends have vowed to watch all things Muppets. I'm Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And this week we are joined by a very special guest from the podcast Tights and Fights. And we got this with Mark and Hal. It's Hal Lublin.
Well, hello to both of you.
Hi, Hal.
I came in so mellow.
Yeah, I feel like I got to match this energy now and like calm
Hey.
down
I'd
a little
love to
bit.
match this energy.
You know, if there's one thing I'm known for, it's bringing every podcast I guest on to a grinding halt.
No, sometimes people need to relax a little bit, you know?
It's a Sunday morning. We're just chilling. We're talking
Sipping
about
on
the
some
Muppets. The energy will increase, is what I'm saying.
We'll be screaming at each other by the end of it.
Yeah, coming in hot with an apology, Hal Lublin.
We'll have that big Mark Hamill energy pretty soon.
Oh boy. Oh
my
boy.
goodness.
He was hammy, wasn't he?
That's the bar we need to reach by the end of this podcast.
Full Hamill.
Mark Hamill gargling with Gershwin. That's our energy. So yeah, for those of you who might be tuning in for the very first time here, what Sam and I do is we watch everything that the Muppets have ever done in chronological order. And we started all the way back in the 1955 with the Sam and Friends show, which is a very early Muppets thing, which there's very few episodes of. And now here in episode 58, we are up to February 1980. And that means we are right in the middle of season 4 of The Muppet Show airing. And because we like to discuss The Muppet Show in its New York airing order, that means today we are discussing the episodes featuring guests Mark Hamill, Dizzy Gillespie, and Anne Murray. But before we get into talking about all those episodes, Hal, would you like to introduce yourself to the Commitment audience and maybe let them know your history with the Muppets and other non-Muppet things that you do?
Sure. My name is Hal. I do a lot of podcasting and voice acting as well. I was on the Venture Brothers, a show called Mighty Magiswords. I'm currently playing MODOK in Squirrel Girl, the Unbeatable radio show for Marvel, which is really exciting.
Hell yeah.
But the first thing that I ever did on a stage is when I was 5 years old in Philadelphia at the Comedy Works Comedy Club as part of a special thing that KYW, the NBC affiliate that aired the Muppet Show, was doing at the time, called Double Muppets Hold the Onions, where they would show 2 episodes of the Muppet Show, and in between, they would have kids come up on stage and tell jokes. So the first time I was ever
Wow.
on television anywhere was tied to the Muppets. I got up on stage and told a joke my mother gave me that I thought was too long, and I proofed it by almost forgetting the punchline at the end, and I do have video of
No,
it.
that's the most important part.
Yes.
What was the joke?
Oh, it was.
Is it like 10 minutes long?
It feels like it's 10 minutes long.
It's like the Norm Macdonald moth joke, but they had a 5-year-old tell it.
Yeah, it's about the lady who has a parrot, and the parrot is only trained to say "Who is it?" And she heads out for the day, and a plumber shows up to fix an issue in her building and knocks on the door. The parrot says, "Who is it?" Guy says, "It's the plumber," and it goes back and forth until the plumber gets so frustrated he drops dead of a heart attack. The woman
Oh,
comes
no.
home, sees a man laid out on her stairs, says, "Oh my God, who is it?" And the parrot says, "It's the plumber." That's the joke. But imagine that
Wow.
longer.
And from a child stumbling
And
through
a
it on
child.
stage.
Me and Bob Nelson up on stage together.
And I imagine you were only supposed to take like 30 seconds probably.
Yeah.
Get in, get out, right?
Yeah, they could only show the closing credits of that episode once I was done. The best part of that is at the end, I was wearing a shirt with a tie and a sweater over it. And I didn't want to wear that. It was too stuffy. And so my mother was holding up my change of clothes so you can see me at the end look and then start trying to take the clothes off because I had done, like the dog, I was good. Now I get Cookie.
Oh my God.
So
That's amazing.
but all tied to the Muppets.
Well, it all turned
Who I
out all
love.
right for you. You're
Yes.
MODOK now.
That's right.
Your mom tried to sabotage your career, though.
She tried, but I'm still here.
Yeah,
Still
take
here,
that, Mom.
Take that. I grew up right in the era when the Muppets were sort of on fire.
Mhm.
So I watched the Muppet Show as a child, and then later in syndication and all of the films, and I just love them. I've worked on some projects that didn't go that involved some of the Muppeteers, which was cool. But I've always sort of been like a satellite around Muppet culture, never directly involved in anything in any way. But I just love watching it, and I love seeing them. I love seeing them come back and capture new generations of children.
Yeah.
Because there's something universal about it. Even as dated as some of the things are in the Muppet Show, everything still works the way it should, which is a testament to a piece of culture that's built to last.
It is wild to see such a resurgence of it on with Twitter fan art, and it's just everywhere right now. Maybe just to me because I follow so much, I tweet about the Muppets so much, but it does seem like people are ready for more Muppets. They'll love them.
It is always nice to see, 18, 19, 20-year-olds getting into the Muppets now, where you're like, okay, this isn't just a thing for the 30 to 50-year-old people. It's is a thing for everyone. And it is nice and sort of inspiring to see the younger fan artists who are just now being like, you guys heard of this New Zealand guy? He's wild.
Yeah, I mean, now people who are in that 30 to 50 pocket are creating media and are sort of entrenched. So the things that they make are either informed or directly using the things that inspire them. And
Yeah.
everybody in our generation, I assume we're all in that pocket. I hope. Don't tell me if we're not. Maybe I'm not either. I'm very young. But that's something we all respond to and love. So it gets passed on to a new generation.
You were talking about being a satellite to some of the Muppet world, and I think part of that satellite system has been on your podcast, We Got This, where you've done a few episodes related to Muppets, and you have definitively decided on that podcast, because that's what you guys do, who the best Muppet Show guest of all time is, the best classic Muppet movie of all time, and the best Muppet of all time.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And on those episodes, you had some special guests, including Craig Shemin, John Hodgman, Stephanie DeBruzzo, and Kirk Thatcher.
Yes, we've Kirk was great. He has so many stories, and that's a lot of that episode. Was tell us about this, tell us about that, tell us about. That was where we first heard about Gonzo and Camilla, which I will tell here if.
We have discussed before.
You discussed this, that every chicken is Camilla to him. Yeah, that's
yes.
Is,
I don't buy it.
I mean, it's straight from the Dave Goelz mouth, so
They're
I feel
in
like
love. They're in love.
I mean, Gonzo's in love with every Camilla.
Yeah.
Equally, I think is what happens.
She's got such distinctive eye makeup, though. You couldn't confuse her very well. She's fetching.
Nowadays, I think they've done a lot better job making sure Camilla always looks like Camilla. But in those early days, it was just the nearest chicken puppet.
I don't believe it. That's Camilla erasure. It's disrespect. Well, who was your favorite? I haven't listened to the favorite guest one. Who was your favorite guest? Who was the top guest? Do you think?
The top guest, and we actually sent this to our listeners and said, pick your top 5 to 10. Mark Hamill, I think, was in there. John Cleese made the cut as well. Another great episode where he puts Gonzo on the rack and stretches him out. But the best episode, which is great not only because it maybe has the best musical numbers of all, though the Anne Murray episode gives it a run for its money.
Yeah.
But also his interaction with the Muppets is Harry Belafonte. The best part of that episode is Craig Shemin, who runs the Henson Legacy. He spoke to Frank Oz about it ahead of our recording, and Frank Oz is like, I'll tell you who the best host is. I know who it is. And so he kept it in a sealed envelope, essentially, in a lockbox in his mind, and didn't tell us until we made our decision. And our decision was the same as Frank Oz's decision, which I think is, there's no better validation than that.
That is a very special episode. It's a great one.
It is.
We'll speculate a lot on this podcast about what the people who were there might have been thinking or what they think looking back on some of this stuff. And it must be, reassuring to know that, like, okay, cool. One of the guys who was there doing this also agrees that this thing is great. Like, he can see it for what it is, even though he was on the inside.
Matt, do you have a favorite guest?
Every time we talk about this, it gets harder and harder for me because we've watched so many, and I only seem to remember the worst ones. Like
they're much easier to remember. I agree
like
with
Spike Milligan is burned into my brain.
Yeah.
And the next batch we have to watch next week, Sam, oh boy, is gonna be rough. But yeah, so the worst ones stick out to me more than the best ones, unfortunately. But I do think that the Harry Belafonte one is up there as one of the top 2 or 3, if not the top 1.
I mean, it's a balancing act, right? There are hosts who are great with the Muppets and are just sort of happy to be there, and that will carry them through an episode. There's some who just sort of understand the assignment better than anybody else and like somehow buy into it, which Harry Belafonte does. I mean, obviously, he had a close relationship with Jim Henson that extended outside of the show, and then you have the hosts where, bless their hearts, they'd be great on any show, but it doesn't really matter that they were on the Muppet Show in particular.
Yeah.
The Muppets are happening around them instead of happening with them.
That's a
big
huge
distinction.
bulk of them, I would say, too.
Yeah, I think that's like what's been most surprising, and I think because of a lot of this sort of nostalgia around the Muppets is, I think people don't realize that the Muppets did a lot of not like great things back in the day. Like, there's a lot you can look back on and go, "Whew, that's a swing and a miss."
A lot of the Muppet Show really sucks.
First season is rough, and like they're getting their sea legs. But there's like sketches where you're watching now, and you're like, if they put that on TV today, people would be like, "What the hell are they doing?" Like.
Yes. Tweeting about how disappointing an episode of the Muppet Show there was this week, just ripping it apart.
Beauregard's gonna be canceled.
Yeah.
I
He
mean,
should be.
yeah.
I hate that guy.
He's gotten better though too, because like in the early days of Beauregard, as he got introduced to the Muppet Show, it seemed like he was going to be a major character who was going to influence every plot line, and thankfully they scaled him back to the background pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But you also decided on We Got This that the best classic Muppet movie was The Great Muppet Caper.
And that was with Stephanie D'Abruzzo, who is currently working on Sesame Street and, of course, was nominated for a Tony for Avenue Q. So she knows her stuff. Doc Hammer was on that episode as well. And we were going back and forth. But, the great thing that she brought to that is she knows how the sausage gets made. So she knows how difficult even simple shots of when there are mirrors in the room are. So just the technical feat of it. It's my personal favorite. I love all 3 of them. I probably like them 2, 1, 3, and 2 and 1 are a lot closer to each other than 3 is. Although I love 3.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is so meta, and the second one they actually make a genre movie with the Muppets, and it maintains that sort of meta aspect, but also ups the technical difficulty because there's no way Jim Henson wasn't going to do that. And it's got great musical numbers. It's got Charles Grodin singing to Miss Piggy. What's
for
better
so
than that?
long, forever.
Yeah, we that one's coming up in our chronological timeline here, and just later this year we'll be talking about that one. And it's been a while since I've watched it, but I've always enjoyed it every time I've seen it. And I've watched Muppets Take Manhattan more recently, and I really enjoy that one. So I'm excited to see them with like fresh eyes and understand sort of my own personal ranking. But yeah, I think specifically on your episode, Stephanie D'Abruzzo talks about how there's the scene in there where Kermit has to put on pants.
Yeah.
And just like when you watch it happen, if you don't think about it for longer than half a second, you're just like, oh yeah, Kermit put on pants. And then you think about the fact that Kermit the Frog, a puppet, just had to put on some pants and make it look effortless. And like all of the work that goes into that. And there's a musical number in the batch of episodes we're talking about today that if you look at the behind the scenes footage of it, the work that goes into making some of these things seem completely natural is insane at times, and you don't realize the like 30 bearded men just below the frame making everything work.
And one woman who they cycle through every season.
Yes, they always have to have one woman on staff. That's the Henson rule.
Yeah, I mean, the show, in a lot of ways, that show was like a grand experiment of what can we do? What can we try? How can we play with both like film and and TV making techniques and invent new ways to puppeteer? And that's like that's one of the other fun levels. You can enjoy the show on like several different levels, and that's one of the fun ones, is going like, oh, they had to figure out how to do this.
That's a hard one to remember too, but then when you do remember, you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Or like when you see the tops of their heads, you're like, you idiots.
Sesame Street actually it's still up. They posted a photo yesterday of Grover showing off a nice finger painting that he did of himself. And like in the bottom of the frame, you can see Eric Jacobson holding up the picture and you see his eyes peering out from underneath the picture. And so it just looks like there's a human like helping Grover hold up the picture. But we all know. The other Muppet episode you did on We Got This, you definitively decided, which I guess makes a lot of sense, that the best Muppet has to be Kermit.
Yeah, and that was with Kirk Thatcher, who, again, stories galore, but we just kept coming back to, like, he's literally the avatar of all Muppets. He is the Muppets.
Yeah, and you cannot have the Muppets without Kermit at this point.
Yeah, like, I love Zoot is my personal favorite Muppet. I don't know why I've been attached to him since I was a kid. I think
this is a great Zoot. We had a great Zoot episode in here as well.
Yeah, he's real cool. He plays the saxophone. I like his outfit.
He does have a good outfit.
I've always been drawn to him, but there's no way I would pick him to be the best Muppet in a million years. He's my favorite Muppet. That's the difference, right?
I think Grover might be the best Muppet, personally.
Oh, I love Grover. I think of Grover more as a monster on Sesame Street. We just did Best Sesame Street Monster with Bobby Moynihan. Like in the last 3 weeks, I want to say. Okay. And that's who I was pulling for, because I also love Grover. And I love Super Grover even more, and I even enjoy Super Grover 2.0.
See, I always have an affinity for Gonzo and Rolf as two of my favorite Muppets, but I guess when you're comparing best versus favorite, it's a lot harder. And yeah, I would still maybe argue that Rolf is the best Muppet, but I think that's largely dependent on if you've watched his stuff with Jimmy Dean, which most people have not.
Yeah, he was the first. He was the breakout star.
Yeah.
Oh man, he was so freaking good.
He's great.
Too.
I still have the cassette of the first Muppet Show cast album that I made my parents play that. I think we drove to Pittsburgh from Philadelphia when I was a kid, and it was mostly that album on repeat. And I love his version of Coddleston Pie that he does. It's beautiful. Even more beautiful than Halfway Down the Stairs being sung by Robin, which is also very nice.
I'm going to say that's a tough competition right there.
Better solo artist.
Best solo artist of the year, Robin the Frog or Ralph the Dog. Well, aside from deciding the best things on your podcast, we've touched on a little bit of your favorite things, but do you have any, I guess, sort of like more recent post-Henson Muppet things that you really enjoy?
I love the Halloween special that Kirk did this past year, the Haunted Mansion, the Muppet Haunted Mansion. I thought it's really hard to, I hate to say get the Muppets right, because that's different for every single person. It depends on what you grew up on. Same with Star Wars. Whatever you grew up with, that's your version of it. So you either grew up with Jim Henson as Kermit, or you grew up with Steve Whitmire as Kermit. Like whatever it was, it's not wrong. But it felt more like a piece of classic Muppet culture than anything I've seen in a long time, including the Jason Segel movies, which I liked, but this one just felt like if Jim Henson were alive, this is pretty close to what he would make in terms of just the Muppet jokes of it all.
You could see that made with like cardboard sets in like the early 70s or something.
Yeah, it definitely. We were going into that cautiously optimistic because we were just like, okay, like neither one of us were huge fans of Muppets Now when that came out on Disney Plus, and I know there was like a lot of behind the scenes turmoil that made that show like a little rougher than it was supposed to be. But at the same time, like Muppets Haunted Mansion, we went in like, okay, new Muppets thing. We hope it's good. We want it to be good. Let's see. And then we're so pleasantly surprised at how good it really was.
Yeah.
Because even like, a lot of times when it's handed down of Disney's like, okay, you have to have these 15 celebrities in your thing to be cameos. And it's like, oh God, how are they going to work them in naturally? And then they did a great job of, making them ghosts, and they're there for mostly one song. And then that's kind of it. So they don't even like distract from the plot. And that's, I think, like one of the things we talk about a lot on this podcast is I think something they get right in that special is that so often now when the Muppets are on things, they are viewed through the nostalgic lens and like held up on this pedestal as like, oh my God, it's Kermit the Frog. But what we like about the Muppets best is when they are the scrappy underdogs, or they're bad at things and they can't do what they want to do, or they fail at every step of the process. And like those make the best movies, episodes, everything. And so it's weird now when they do either a show or a special or a guest appearance on something where their whole thing is like, they're the famous Muppets.
Yeah, it does take them down. They're like the story of trying to make. They're the Jim Henson story of trying to be successful in show business, like blazing your own path. So you lose that when they're that exact thing of like, oh, you're famous. You're all famous and so great. Then it's, well, where do you go?
How am I supposed to make jokes about that?
Yeah,
right.
I'm famous and everybody loves me.
Yeah, it makes them less interesting characters if they're already rich and famous at the beginning of the story.
Absolutely. Like, well, I guess all our dreams came true. Roll credits.
So, getting into what we watched this week, Sam, why don't you tell the people what we watched this week?
On February 21st, 1980, the epic Muppet Empire Strikes Back crossover / marketing blitz that started with Sesame Street continues on The Muppet Show. As Scooter prepares this week's guest, Angus McGonagall, the Argyle Gargoyle, a wall of the dressing room explodes and in rushes Luke Skywalker, C-3PO, and R2-D2, who Scooter recognizes as the stars of Star Wars. He makes the executive decision to boot Angus, is that his name?
Yeah.
Yes. As the headliner in favor of the Star Wars gang. Unfortunately, they prove to be reluctant guests at best, refusing to sing, dance, or do anything required of a guest on The Muppet Show. And for pretty good reason. They're here on like a military mission looking for Chewbacca, who has been kidnapped, but managed to get a communique out explaining that he was captured by, quote, weird turkeys, which led Luke and company to The Muppet Show. Fortunately, Luke has a cousin on this planet, Mark Hamill, who's only too eager to sing and dance. Unfortunately, the Muppets think he stinks at that, so the show goes relatively guestless until the end, when the Star Wars guys seize the Swine Trek to take their search to space. They receive a taunting transmission from Darth Nader and land on Coosbane, where they find a distressingly naked Chewbacca. Ultimately, they free him with the power of a good musical number and a little bit of tap dancing. My totally subjective highlights for this episode include the only funny Muppet newsflash ever, Mark Hamill giving a glimpse of how fucking weird he is, and C-3PO dancing. And also, like, this episode was coherent, kept moving, and was engaging throughout, which is a semi-rarity for an episode of The Muppet Show, I feel like. Mark Hamill is an actor, best known, obviously, as Luke Skywalker, but also these days as an accomplished voice actor, most notably as the Joker in countless projects, starting with Batman the Animated Series. Before he was Luke, he appeared on soap opera General Hospital and a slew of other TV appearances before a pre-Freddy Krueger Robert Englund convinced him to try out for a role in Star Wars. And at this point in 1980, he had also started his voice acting career in the Hanna-Barbera adaptation of I Dream of Jeannie. Next up, February 28th, 1980, the stakes are still high at The Muppet Show as a series of noise complaints has drawn the attention of an EPA stooge. He tells Kermit that if the show gets above a certain level of loudness enough times tonight, he'll have to shut the whole thing down. We hate government regulations, don't we, folks? Unfortunately for the Muppets, tonight's guest star is jazzman Dizzy Gillespie, who Kermit fears is bound to toot his trumpet extremely loudly. He devises a series of plots to keep the EPA guy busy, but is ultimately unsuccessful. Luckily, the EPA guy turns out to be a huge Dizzy Gillespie fan, and in fact plays the saxophone himself and is willing to drop the whole noise complaint business if he can sit in on the last act. Kermit agrees, and all seems forgotten until the end when Waldorf and his wife Astoria, who is sitting in for a sick Statler, boo too loudly and the EPA guy cancels the show. Highlights include a Fozzie comedy routine, which is a disappointingly rare thing these days, Scooter's big musical number featuring multiple special effects, sets, and costume changes, and how damn puffy Dizzy Gillespie's face gets when he blows his trumpet. It looks like it hurts, like his face is gonna pop right off. Dizzy Gillespie was a jazz trumpeter and a band leader and widely considered one of the best jazz trumpeters of all time. I think he invented a new way to play trumpet, but I'm not smart enough to know music, to know if that means anything or if it's true. He got to start in big bands in the 1930s and I think was just so freaking good that he got really famous. His trumpet looks weird like that because in the 50s at a party, it got bent and he liked how it sounded so much that he just had special trumpets made that looked like that. He also ran for president in 1964 as a write-in candidate with a cabinet of jazz musicians and Phyllis Diller as his running mate. And one of his promises was that he'd rename the White House the Blues House. But I think that was like a tongue-in-cheek fundraiser thing for like lots of civil rights organizations. So I think he seemed like a pretty cool dude all in all. Next up, I guess Kermit talked his way out of the show being canceled because on March 6, 1980, singer Anne Murray graces the Muppet Theater stage. Backstage, Scooter is getting an early start on being an annoying teen in the 80s by taking up skateboarding. He's zipping around and hurting people and ruining stuff, but he still manages to talk Kermit into letting him do some skateboard tricks in the closing number by invoking the specter of his uncle who owns the theater. Anne is flanked by a dozen or so skateboarding Muppets in the finale, but it actually goes pretty well, all things considered. Not much of a plot in this one. Highlights include what seems like a really straight-laced performance of Snowbirds that is hijacked by a weirdly realistic pun-making dodo, a very strange Coosbane segment that isn't super amazing but feels like classic 60s Muppet stuff, and a great UK spot featuring a Marvin Suggs-esque hillbilly musician whacking animals with a stick to make them sing. This would be a 5-star episode, but I can't stand the sight of Louis Kazager anymore. Anne Murray is a pop country singer who was a big stinking deal here and an even bigger stinking deal in her homeland of Canada. In 1969, her breakout hit Snowbird was released and that won the first gold record ever given to a Canadian. And she was one of the notable Canadians that carried the Olympic flag in the Vancouver Winter Games in 2010. Canada! Also, we saw her on a special Sesame Street Christmas, remember?
Yes.
And then elsewhere in 1980... I didn't remember until, I looked it up.
I also
Elsewhere
kind
in
of forgot.
1980, I think we already talked about this time period in the Sesame Street episode before. Correct me if I'm wrong, Matt. But according to my unexpert research, the 80s wrestling boom was almost underway around now, with syndicated wrestling shows gaining a huge audience, featuring such early WWF personalities as Mean Gene Okerlund and Hulk Hogan. Is that true?
I mean, I think that's true. I like that you worked in wrestling because Hal is here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I've never heard Sam talk that much about wrestling in my life. Even that 15 seconds was
one
longer than I've...
sentence.
Yeah, I know.
That's
Amazing.
not true.
Are you okay?
I've talked to you about who's the ghoul, the ghost, the fiend.
There we
What's
go.
That guy's name?
The Fiend.
The Fiend? Yeah, I like that guy.
Because of the mask?
Yeah. And the puppets.
Sure.
And,
Oh, yeah.
and a general vibe, I think. That was one of the few things that Sam, as a non-regular wrestling watcher, noticed creeping into his social media and being like, Matt, tell me about this man. What is happening?
Yes. I like this Twin Peaks plus Muppet Show vibe. I thought that was cool.
Perfect description.
But now he's shit canned, right? He's out of
Yes.
It's
Yes.
there's one of those like backstage stories of like who quit, who fired, who wanted what money kind of thing that no one will ever know the truth. But
Okay.
he is not currently wrestling anywhere.
But hope springs eternal.
there. Maybe he can come be on our show.
He's free.
Yeah, he's not doing anything.
There are a couple other things happening during this time in the Muppet world. I get most of these from Jim's Journal on the Jim's Red Book blog site. On February 28th, 1980, Jim and Jane went to Bermuda for a couple of days.
What the heck? Their relationship is a mystery to me.
Same. That's literally what I put in my notes is like, even after reading Brian J. Jones's biography and looking through Jim's journal and stuff, like, I don't think I will ever understand the ins and outs of their relationship because back in like 1973 is when she basically, as Jim put it, gave her declaration of independence from him of like, all right, so we're just going to live separate lives forever, essentially. You'll have your apartments, I'll have my house, we have these kids, we're good, right? And yet still obviously cared a lot about each other until like Jim's death and wouldn't even like legally separate in any way until 1986, I believe. So they were still close and obviously close enough to take a little vacation to Bermuda.
If they brought the kids, it would make sense. They still do family vacations.
Yeah, I don't know. This one didn't have a lot of notes on it. And usually he does note everyone who comes on the trip with him. So it almost sounded like it was just him and Jane going to Bermuda together.
Interesting.
Again, not a lot of information about it. And also in March 1980, Jack Rose goes on over to London to work with Jerry Jewell on the Great Muppet Caper script. And Jack Rose was somebody who had written for Bob Hope and Milton Berle. And basically, to get them to work together, because it was the 80s, he had to ship him over to London. And so Jack Rose moved over there to help him out. And this was in the middle of taping season 5 of The Muppet Show. So Jerry couldn't go anywhere. So they shipped Jack over there. And through, multiple revisions, multiple versions of that script, Jerry Jewell, Jack Rose, and a couple other writers, and Jim all teamed up to eventually make that script work. But it is coming along, folks. We will get to the Great Muppet Caper fairly soon. But yes, getting back to the Mark Hamill episode. Hal, this is the one that you specifically requested you'd like to talk about on this podcast.
I did. I love the crossover. I remember how excited I was for this as a kid. Every time I got to see it as a huge Star Wars fan and a huge Muppets fan, at which Mark Hamill is both as well, which is really apparent in this. I don't think it holds up as well in rewatching. I mean, it's fine. Obviously, Mark Hamill's super excited to be there, which I love his energy and how over the top he is, because you can feel how excited he is to be performing with this version of the Muppets after being with just Frank Oz on a soundstage in London for several months. Not that was unpleasant, but like he got that end of the Muppet, like, so he's interacting with Miss Piggy, but also interacting with Yoda. So it's interesting to see him. He's already got a comfort level.
Yeah, Miss Piggy and Yoda are kind of the same.
Yeah.
They sound the same.
A little different energies. He had to be maybe a little bit, like both Frank and Mark had to be a little bit more reserved when they were on set on Dagobah, versus here they're both like, fuck it. Like, let's go nuts.
Sometimes Yoda makes a funny face and runs around real fast. So.
He can move real fast. I love he's wearing his Bespin fatigues also. This is
the first time anyone would have seen this costume. Like, this came out a couple months before the movie was released. And so, yeah, the first time anyone in the world would see the Bespin outfit Luke Skywalker is on The Muppet Show.
Where does he get those in the movie? He just has them on at some point.
I think it's a modified version of what he wears when he's on Dagobah. Because he's wearing the pants, but he has the jacket, but it's generally hung up because it's hot and damp
so
there.
He's got his sexy crop top on, or not crop top, tank top.
Yeah,
but clearly, Cloud City is a little colder. You're hot. Yeah. You're way up in the clouds. It's windy, so you put the jacket on.
He is looking sharp, though.
Yeah, it's a great outfit. I love that. It's one of my favorite Star Wars outfits, costumes.
And the running gag of everyone asking him who his tailor is a nice little touch there.
Yes, of course, culminating in Mark Hamill asking him. I also love, and I did not recognize as a child, two things. One of them I think I really keyed in on this time, which is that Anthony Daniels is just wearing a bodysuit with wires painted on it rather than having to be in the full getup otherwise. And the other is that Peter Mayhew could not look more miserable to be anywhere, anytime. And maybe it's just because they made him naked. He was
so embarrassed. He's like skulks by at the end, like,
yeah.
What's wrong with him?
It is odd that he's naked. I don't know. Like, I guess they don't trust him with his little bandolier.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we've seen him captured many times in Star Wars, and he always gets to keep his bandolier.
Mm-hmm.
So Darth Vader, I guess, just is a little more sensical with his prisoners.
Yeah, I think
want to be like every villain from the A-Team.
I think the only time we ever see
tool shed
with all of his resources. I think the only time we see Chewbacca this naked in Star Wars film canon is in Solo, when he first meets Han Solo, where he is also a prisoner. But I don't think he also it is weird to see when he just strolls out and it's like, hey, I'm here.
Yeah. And the song Dance Never at the end, I don't know if it was like he's like, this is all very childish and didn't want to do any of it, but just the shuffling, it looked like,
come on, man.
Like a middle school musical, a kid whose parents
got him a really expensive Wookiee outfit, and then it's like,
he's just shuffling and looking at the floor, and if he had pockets, his hands would be in them.
You're dressed like a big dog. You can't be this. You can't be this proud.
That's what we really needed, was a scene of Rolf and Chewbacca barking at each
That would have
other.
been great. I would have loved that so much.
Well, he'd already been burned by the holiday special. Maybe he was wary of doing
That's true.
more
TV.
more things
Yeah.
that weren't directly Star Wars. That's possible.
Or
He's like-
maybe he missed his family from the holiday special. He was trying to get Lumpy in there,
Yeah.
but they wouldn't do it.
Or his pervy dad.
Yeah.
His extremely pervy dad.
Oh man, Diane Carroll. He was real into her. Real into her. Everybody leave me. I got to put on my Oculus Quest 2 and watch Diane Carroll. This is Grandpa's alone time.
Yeah, I'm going into the metaverse to watch Diane Carroll.
Itchy across the metaverse.
Ugh.
Part 1 coming in June. Also, I feel bad for Kenny Baker. Like, Anthony Daniels gets credited as C-3PO, and they're just like, and R2-D2. There's certainly not a little person in there who is operating this entire thing and practically strangling himself on wires.
Yeah, R2-D2 as himself says the credit, which
Oh.
there's a lot of
That's
yeah, there's a lot of weird if you try to unravel this world of the Muppet Show / Star Wars, things kind of unravel very quickly, where it's like, okay, so Scooter and Kermit reference Star Wars. They have seen this movie, but also they are acknowledging that these characters are real people in this world.
It's real.
So Star
Yeah.
Wars is a documentary in the world of
Yeah.
the Muppet Show.
In the Star Wars universe, there exists a solar system exactly like ours. Through all of history, everything is exactly the same, except there are Muppets. And that's the only difference. And then the Star Wars guys visit it. That's the answer.
Well, it's a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, and it's an infinite universe. It's possible. There's a universe, there's a world out there where there is Kermit the Frog walking around, you know?
Absolutely.
Well, and as we mentioned previously in the podcast, because we've been doing a series, weirdly, of Star Wars-related episodes, Coosbane was for a brief period of time in the Star Wars canon. In 2009, they put out a Star Wars The Essential Atlas book, which was like a reference book of every planet, and they put Coosbane on their galaxy map. Like, somebody snuck that in there. And that changed when, like, Disney bought Lucasfilm and made everything that wasn't, like, Clone Wars or the movies non-canon. And so there was, like, this 5-year window where Coosbane was technically canon in Star Wars. And there was even not an attempt, but there was like an article in Star Wars Insider magazine back in 2001 basically talking about this episode and trying to fit it into canon to like try and make it make sense in some way.
Yeah.
I don't think they succeeded. But yeah, it's worth noting that for a short period of time, they were having a little bit of fun trying to incorporate Muppet Show into Star Wars.
Did they tear a muscle bending over backwards to make that feel? It just
No,
feels like it
it's
would.
It broke them so bad, Disney stepped in. They're like, you need our help. Here's $4 billion.
Let's put together a pentaveret to decide what's real. We're going to take this Coosbane matter off the table permanently
That's a big mistake.
until
They
Dave
shouldn't.
Filoni puts it in season 3 of The Mandalorian.
Oh, yeah. That's what we all need. We just need Dave Filoni to be like, Coosbane, you say?
Yeah, Darth Nader will come back. He'll be the main villain of the season.
We'll just see a Darth Nader helmet on a spike in Tatooine or something.
no, leave him alone.
Yeah, his bones are an exegol. You didn't see that in the Citadel? He's underneath one of those hoods. Another thing I like about this episode is all of the non-Star Wars related stuff. I loved six-string orchestra is great.
Oh man, that was great.
Three Little
I love
Fishies is great, and again uses like let's use some chroma key and put all of these different elements together. And the puppeteering on that is insane. It's like simple. You can imagine what they're doing, but it just looks great on screen.
Yeah, and they've done this kind of stuff with fish before that looked bad, and this one looked very good compared to they're keying it in, they're figuring it out.
And Ramalama Ding Dong is just
Was all the
stupid
sheep
fun.
stuff because it was supposed to be a Scottish guy was hosting the show?
I kind of was trying to figure that out too, of like why it's weird that like you'd think they would go space themed for the Star Wars episode.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think it's largely a sheep themed episode, and would guess that maybe because Angus McGonagall was supposed to be the guest, which is just a wild concept if you really think about that for too long, is that they were going to let this guy be the celebrity guest on this episode. It also makes me think that maybe there's a world where there's a lot of Muppet Show episodes that we don't see in this world.
It happens at least every night, right? I imagine it happens every night.
Right, so they're only televising like the good ones, and we're not seeing any of these bad ones where they just have some random Scottish Muppet hosting.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe I think that's the best. I don't think it makes sense, but I think that's the closest.
Kermit literally
it comes to
says,
making
fitting
sense.
with the theme for tonight, we're going to look at some sheep. But it doesn't make any sense that he says that.
From a writing perspective, it makes a lot more. They were set to have what was a normal episode for them, and then Star Wars shows up, throws it off, but they're bigger stars. So Kermit's trying to. It feeds into we're underdogs. That people think our show sucks. We have huge stars here. Let's get rid of the gargling gargoyle, and bring these guys in who don't want to do it because it's a third-rate variety show.
Yeah, but we still got to do all the sheep stuff because we got to fill the time.
I also love Mark Hamill showing off his voice acting chops.
Mm-hmm.
His ability to imitate people. He obviously does anything Frank Oz does, he can do really well also because he's has that same sort of vocal range that he can work in.
It says on Muppet Wiki that when he did a Kermit impression for Jim also didn't get that he was doing a Kermit impression, and that's based on that situation.
Yeah, it said that they wrote that into the script because he did that in the pitch meeting where they were like, okay, what do you want to do for this show? And he was like, well, I can do impressions. And he did Kermit, and they're like, cool, who do you do?
Brutal.
Which, to be fair, I will be fair to Mark Hamill, he does a better job than Rich Little did on The Muppet Show when Rich Little tried to do impressions of
a
Kermit.
Professional impressionist.
Right.
Those were very bad.
He did very, very bad Fozzie and Kermit impressions, and I think Mark Hamill does a pretty good impression.
Yeah. It's hard to do Kermit. It's Jim Henson. It is Jim Henson.
It's just his voice, yeah.
Right. That's, when anyone critiques Steve Whitmire and Matt Vogel's performances, it's like, yeah, they're not Jim Henson. They're going to sound different because no one has that voice.
Mm-hmm. It's great seeing Mark Hamill, just seeing who he really, the glimpses of the extremely strange man that he actually is.
Yeah, we get that a bit when early on he runs in as Luke Skywalker and is the most intense Luke Skywalker we've ever seen in any media.
I've ever seen him move at all.
Remember Alderaan!
Yeah. Much more keyed up about the war in this than he is in any of the movies.
Yeah, I was going to say, nobody in any of the movies is really like, oh yeah, Alderaan.
Yeah, it's a good, look, we don't really get to see him blow off steam. We always get to see him in the middle of the Star War. What happens when he's outside of it? We get to see that energy he had when he was on Tatooine and upset.
Yes. That's exactly it. He's redirected his sadness of not getting to go to Tashi Station to kicking in the guest star door at the Muppet Show.
Yeah, I bet you those power converters just sat on a shelf for
Probably
7
collected
days.
Dust.
Because when you order something for pickup at 7 days, they're like, "We're just going to refund you and put it back in stock."
Yeah.
Or Power Converter was just his favorite flavor of Monster Energy drink, and that's where all of his energy comes from. He's like, I gotta get some Power Converters, man.
I'm going to be streaming myself shooting Womp Rats later on. And I gotta have. This is sponsored by Power Converters.
Matt, did you rate this episode?
Oh yeah, I gave it 4 stars.
I gave it 5 stars. Mostly because this is an episode I'd be comfortable showing anyone and being like, this is a good episode of The Muppet Show. You're going to have fun watching this.
Hal, did you rate this out of 5 stars?
I give it 4.5 stars. I don't think it quite makes it into the 5-star realm for me, but it's a really good episode. I try to separate out how much I love every single element of it. So it's a really, really good show. And I agree, it's a good jumping on point for people to sort of get what the show is, but it also feels like a disruption of what the show is at the same time. So it's a weird it's generally the guest is here, we're doing the show, and something else weird is happening, where in this case it's something weird is happening that changes the entire show outright. It's just a little change. So that dings it a 0.5 star for me, but it's everything else in it is great.
I kind of keep there's like a list of my favorite episodes that are straightforward Muppet Show episodes, and a list of my favorite episodes that are like what you were saying, like flip it on its head. I still like the train station episode better as like a flip it on its head episode, but I think this one also is very good. I don't think they've ever really done a bad flip it on its head episode.
The Steve Martin one isn't a perfect episode.
Oh, that one's just a little boring.
Yeah. And there's some troublingly problematic music that happens in it.
Yes, I forgot about
But that was Steve Martin in the 70s, folks.
Yeah.
So that's just going to come with the territory, unfortunately. Is this the episode, Sam, that you said the first ever, for you, funny newsman sketch?
Yes.
Which one? Was it the
Where-
Venus de Milo, or was it the sheep
The
attacking him?
sheepdog trials, and he says all the sheepdog have been found not guilty. That made me laugh. The first time the Muppet Newsman has ever made me laugh.
That is really good. I did like the Venus joke also, though. Venus is going to be landing on the news station.
That one was
how's
okay.
that?
I'm bored of his shtick. Though, at this point. Things are falling on his head all the time, and at least in this one, like in that other one, something didn't fall on his head.
Yeah.
Refreshing change of pace.
I like the brief little interlude of Scooter practicing for his upcoming number, but not in like a backstage dressing room kind of way, it's just an interesting thing that they've never really done before, where it's like, hey, folks, get ready. I'm coming up with my performance.
Yeah. Liberace got to do that, remember?
Yeah, but that's Liberace. This is Scooter.
Yeah, Liberace and Scooter. They're the two who got to do it.
The two consummate show people.
Yeah. Do you think Scooter lives in the Muppet Theater? I think he might.
He's got a cot. He's got a cot somewhere.
Well, he's got this nice little attic bedroom, it looks like, and he's a big fan of Star Wars.
When the guests come in, when there are extra guests, they take over, and then
They take his room.
he's got to wheel his cot somewhere. It folds up, and then he just
Yeah,
wheels it.
I think he doesn't tell anyone that he lives there. Like, no one knows that Scooter lives in the theater, so he has to like sneak in and out, or like he wakes up at 5 a.m. and runs out for coffee, and so he shows up at 8. He's like, "Hey, everyone, sorry I'm a little late."
Like he's always the first one here and the last one to leave. What a hard worker! And while
Devoted to
he's
the show.
This
heating up a cup of soup
14-year-old
on a hot
child.
plate. Yeah.
He's got it on the radiator, yeah.
He's eating it on the radio. It's like no hot plate for him. There's no evidence that he lives there outside of a cot that they would have for guests anyway.
He's a very neat fellow, yes.
And all he has is to eat is the scraps from the Swedish Chef's sketches, all these
Oh, no.
vegetables and cakes that he leaves laying around.
Severely
He's like, "Oh yeah, don't worry,
malnourished.
I'll clean up, boss." Scooter's eating well tonight.
Eggshells are edible. Watch.
Poor Scooter. Now he's just, he probably got, he's playing shows in Vegas, doing some stand-up, telling the old stories about the old days. That's why I picture if this Scooter aged in real time, that's where Scooter would be these days.
He'd be writing his memoirs right about now.
Like the 4th issue, like the 4th edition, though.
Yeah.
Like he's like, I got more to tell about that frog.
Trying to get on any podcast he possibly could to talk about it.
He's welcome here anytime.
Yeah, Scooter, come on. Come on the show.
Open invite.
About this point in the episode, we're introduced to the concept of Mark Hamill, who is Luke Skywalker's cousin in this universe. And for a while in this episode, we see them coming in separately, sneaking in and out. So it's like a quick change situation. But they have very different energies, as we've already talked about. And I very rarely in the Muppet Show do we see someone playing like a parody of themselves. And I think the reason we kind of get that is because Mark Hamill was not as like an established person as himself yet at this point. Like people had seen him only really as Luke Skywalker by this point, and so you can have a bit more fun with that rather than like a Bob Hope or a Milton Berle who it's like, oh, yeah, if they come on and they're not Bob Hope, people are going to be asking questions, but no one really knew who Mark Hamill was like for real at this point.
And all of it is just centered around how much fun he's having. It's not like he's not like doing Nicolas Cage in adaptation, and he's not Christopher Reeve playing Clark Kent and Superman. It's not that level of separation, but you can certainly tell who is who, not just from the hair and sweater, but from his energy. But there's just a joy and an excitement to everything he's doing that I don't know that I've seen anybody else have that. Not in this initial run of the show. Just like, this is a fan getting to come and play.
The only other person I can think of is Leo Sayer, and he was so annoying. Mark Hamill does it well. Leo Sayer was too much.
But he's just this is like really the episode is more of an introduction to who he is than than anything that's come before it. Not because he's playing himself, but because he loves the same stuff that we love. He is a big Star Wars fan. He is a big comic books fan. He is a big Muppets fan. So what would it be like if someone like that got to play in that sandbox? And lo and behold, there you go.
When Scooter finally does get to perform his 6-string orchestra bit, I think it turns out in a it's a delightful window into who Scooter is. And we get to see sort of his hopes and dreams of being this like David Bowie-esque rock star, where once again, Dr. Teeth is on the shelf. We don't get to see him here.
No.
He hasn't been around that much in season 4 for some weird reason. But
Rehab.
that
makes a lot of sense, actually.
It's such a great number. It's so sweet. It's very essentially Scooter, who is the most outside of all the Muppets.
This is like the most of a glimpse we've ever gotten into his personality, aside from the early days when he was still a rat. And he was like, he loved tricking people and getting what he wants, which he still is a rat. But I feel like this is like an early example of him being a sweetie, which I think of him more as a sweetie than a rat.
Yeah, he does all the grunt work. He's the loyal stage manager.
Yeah.
But to close out this episode, we referenced earlier that the quote Star Wars people have taken over the swine trek and crash land it onto Coosbane, which results in a couple of musical numbers, a nice little medley of "You Are My Lucky Star," and C-3PO tap dancing and referencing Fred Astaire. Confusingly, I don't know what C-3PO knows about Earth, but he apparently knows who Fred Astaire is, even though when we watched him on Sesame Street, he didn't know what a frickin' tree was.
Well, he didn't watch any movies about trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fred Astaire doesn't talk about trees in his films.
No, he just dances. It was fun to watch him dance in that outfit. He must have been in so much pain.
How did he do it? His knees bend in ways that I wouldn't think that outfit's knees could bend. Like,
yeah.
He rotates his legs, which doesn't seem possible. Like, the whole thing would explode if he rotated his leg.
Just like Forrest Gump style, as he starts moving, it just like slow motion starts popping off in different directions.
Yeah.
I was running.
And the episode ends in a way where you thought it would seem like both of these products were owned by Disney back in 1980, but they were not.
Right.
But we get both the Muppets and Star Wars singing "When You Wish Upon a Star" as a large castle rises up behind them.
A grim look into the future.
Yeah, they knew.
They did.
Even back
they could
then,
see it coming.
they knew.
Caving to their
mouse
overlord.
Has his eyes on us. Yeah.
It was meant to be. Disney was the one to bring balance to the Force.
It is a fun number, but much better than the last 2-part Pigs in Space, which I can't even remember. Why was that a 2-parter?
Oh, there was one where Pigs in Space also went to Coosbane, and it was just kind of weirdly split. Felt like to fill time because they just were like there and they saw some talking rocks and they got freaked out and left.
It sucked. Pigs in Space usually sucks, but this Pigs in Space was pretty good.
There's a line during that Pigs in Space section too that I like, that where you're like, okay, this wasn't written by Star Wars writers, because C-3PO calls R2-D2 a scientifically programmed droid.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, that doesn't sound like Star Wars language to me. Like, scientifically programmed doesn't really mean anything.
That's an old guy who's not familiar with Star Wars at all, who's never seen it. I don't know.
It's a robot.
Robot. Oh, they call him droids? Fine, put that in there.
Yeah. Use some sciencey words, all right? Scientifically. But yeah, overall, a great episode that ends with Mark Hamill and Luke Skywalker both on screen at the same time. What? Melt the minds of the little children watching this in 1980.
And the eye lines are almost correct.
They're not quite.
Almost.
Luke looks like he's a good 4 feet behind Mark Hamill.
Yeah, I think the timing was just off on a little bit when Luke Skywalker thought Mark Hamill was walking into frame.
They should have kissed.
They just like lean slowly. They're like, here, is this my mark? Is this? I got it. Perfect.
I love you, cousin.
Yeah, kissing cousins, Mark Hamill and Luke Skywalker.
Yes, famously.
Then we watched the Dizzy Gillespie episode of The Muppet Show. I gave this one 3.5 stars.
I give this one 4 stars.
I also give this one 3.5 stars.
All right, so
Wow.
we're all in pretty close agreement here.
Yeah.
One small note about this episode that is a bit weird. It was taped in 2 parts in July and October 1979, and I assume that's because of the strike at the TV studio that happened that summer. But it also, the first part they filmed was 2 weeks before the strike started, so I'm not sure. They must have had a plan to film this in 2 parts already, but then the second part had to be pushed because of the strike till October. So I didn't notice any glaring of Dizzy Gillespie didn't have a different haircut halfway through the episode or something, but they apparently taped this in 2 parts, months apart. And we will also see Dizzy Gillespie one more time, at least in our Muppet watching, because he shows up in the Ghost of Fafner Hall.
Do we have access to that?
Yeah, it's
Some of
all
it?
on archive.org, I believe. It's all on there. And it turns out Dizzy Gillespie's appearance on the show was kind of a fluke because he was performing in England and then was talking with his driver about the Muppet Show and how much he'd like to do it. And apparently the driver knew David Laser, the executive producer of the Muppet Show, and passed on the message of hey, I was driving Dizzy Gillespie and he wanted to be on your show. And he's like, okay. And so
That's
then
cool.
Dizzy Gillespie's agent called him and was like, hey, I got you a role on the Muppet Show. And he was like, the driver got me the role on the Muppet Show. you didn't do anything.
The driver drove him right to Muppet Studios and said, enjoy.
Have fun. Yeah, he's a fun, you can tell he enjoys, he's having a good time. He gets it.
Uh-huh.
The reason why I gave it 3.5 stars, it just feels like there's not a lot of meat on the bone. And also that final number feels I mean,
weird.
I don't know. It's a lot.
So the final number takes place in a Middle Eastern palace, it seems like. Everyone's wearing turbans and veils, and there's a vibe to it that you think oh, maybe they're performing a song that fits into the stereotypes. No, they're singing Swing Low, Sweet Cadillac. Jim's Red Book talked about this a little bit, saying that possibly it was a reference to Dizzy Gillespie's other song, A Night in Tunisia, and that maybe they were going to perform that originally and changed it or something, or maybe it's just
Or they were
literally a reference.
jamming or something and they liked this part better.
Yeah, but it doesn't need to be this stereotypical theme, but it sure is.
Do you know anything about how they do the music in this show? Is there a live band adjacent to them doing their thing? Because he must be able to hear a live band, right? Or I guess a recording maybe, but
I think they do
sometimes
it to
it seems
tape,
so.
don't they?
I think it's usually to tape. I think depending on the artist, sometimes they do it live, or at least some of it's pre-taped, but the singer might be live. Because I think with people like Dizzy Gillespie, when they're scatting and things, you can only do that so much to tape.
Yeah.
And so there needs to be some reaction. But yeah, I think there is. I think it's a mixture, because I'm sure it's harder to him to lip sync his trumpet performance to tape.
Right.
So
I just feel like there's been times where Zoot's solos have been very reactive to the clearly live thing that's happening on the show.
yeah, there was a behind the scenes clip we watched from a 60 Minutes or something that showed it in a way that made it look like the band was playing along live, but I also don't know if that was just the way that show was edited and the way we watched it. But I do think there's times when things are being done live and times when they're not, and I think it's maybe a credit to the show that it's harder to tell where that line is. Beginning of the episode, Scooter informs us that Kermit has a rule: no puppets allowed on this show, because Dizzy Gillespie has his own little fun puppet that he's playing with in his dressing room. And apparently you can't do that on the Muppet Show.
No, it was just demonstrably untrue. They've had guest puppeteers multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, Edgar Bergen was here.
But maybe he made a rule after the creepy little puppets that watched each other die. Remember that?
I do. I don't remember what episode that was in, but it was a very sad closing number where we had a story of 2 puppets watching their husband die or something like that. And it was,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after that, Kermit said, "That's it. No more artsy puppets. We're done."
The numbers are in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we get to meet Waldorf's wife for the first time in this episode. Astoria, cleverly named, looks exactly like Statler in a dress and wig.
Yeah. It's cute. I liked her.
We don't know that it isn't. Just gonna put it out there.
Yeah.
We don't know what lives they lead outside of that theater.
We actually have more of an insight into Statler's sex life than we do almost any other Muppet, I would say, besides Miss Piggy, because we know he's dated. Who did he date again?
Oh, you keep throwing these at me. I always forget things.
Who's the little girl in E.T.?
Drew Barrymore.
Definitely wasn't her.
Who's her ancestor actor? Lionel Barrymore.
Oh, he references Dancing with Lionel Barrymore. I was like, Lionel Barrymore was not on the Muppet Show, Sam.
No. But Statler dated Lionel Barrymore.
Yes.
We do know that for a fact.
That was a weird game we played to get to Lionel Barrymore.
That's every day. I don't remember anybody's name.
That wasn't even answering, though, the question we were even trying to get to, so...
I knew how to get there, That's all that matters.
The Gills brothers show up, which are, a fish band.
I like them. They look good.
Yeah, we didn't like them the last time they showed up, Sam. And I don't know why we didn't like them a lot, but this time there's a banjo player in the Gills brothers who is stealing the show with his performance.
You think it's Steve Whitmire?
Maybe. He's got a look in his eyes where he's just like, yeah, I know I'm the best puppet up on this stage.
Yeah. When it's showboating, I feel like at this stage, if somebody's showboating, it's Steve.
Because he's looking for that breakout character. He knows Rizzo is on the horizon. Rizzo's about to be here.
Will be famous, yeah.
I just realized what the Chekhov's gun of this episode was, and it never got fired, which is Izzy Gillespie, the violin
showing
player.
up.
We never got to see Izzy Gillespie show up to play the violin. That feels like unfinished business, especially when his hands blow up while he's playing.
Well, it's something, too, that they've done on The Muppet Show with, like, the Leslie Ann Warren episode where they're like, oh, our performer, Leslie and Warren. And so they've done that before where they have alternate acts show up with the name they mention offhand. And so, it would have made total sense for him to show up and be like, oh, it's my big break. Izzy Gillespie is here.
It's finally my time.
Yeah, we do have Inspector La Brea in this episode, very obviously performed by Dave Goelz, because he sounds like a business casual gonzo. And he is here to inspect these loudness complaints. And this brings out a character trait that I love so much, which is Fozzie, who's in on the scheme.
Yeah.
Because when Fozzie realizes like what the deal is, and he's like, "Oh, right, gotcha. I'm gonna play this real cool, Kermit. Don't you worry." And he does that in this and the next episode with the motorcycle act, where he's like, "Heh, we got this, Kermit. We're on the same page."
And he does that like a point. He's like, "Gotcha."
Yeah.
I love Fozzie loves Kermit so much, and Fozzie is relegated to the sidelines so much at this point. I just feel so bad for him. He just wants to hang out with his best friend, but he doesn't get to.
Yeah, Miss Piggy became too big of a star, and now Fozzie cannot be used as much.
Also, you know how Miyamoto stole all this stuff from the Muppets?
You can't just drop this in when Hal's here and not tell him. Sam has this theory that Shigeru Miyamoto stole a bunch of things from the Muppets to create Mario.
We've seen Koopas and Goombas on the Muppets. On Muppets things, and we saw
Sesame
Mario
Street.
on a 7-Eleven commercial from 1978 as well.
I buy it.
But so I think Dan Aykroyd watched this episode and stole this for Ghostbusters.
Which part? Oh, the just the meter?
EPA man who's trying to shut him down.
Gotcha.
That's like this is the birth of Walter Peck.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, we do have dogs and cats living together, so it all came true.
Exactly. Yes. You can't. Dan Aykroyd knew Muppets, for God's sake. He was aware.
Yeah, he worked with them on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah. Did you not like the Saturday Night? Did you ever see the Saturday Night Live Muppets?
Oh yeah, of course. It's
They're
very
pretty
weird.
nasty.
Oh, hey dear, I'm home. Like it's so very weird.
Yeah.
It did not fit at all. It was the right decision to separate them, but just told you what the Muppets were at that time, that they would even be asked to be part of this.
There's a fun little period at the end where they've been fired, but they still are like bumming around the theater that I think works, where they're basically just like sentient vermin that just live in the Saturday Night Live theater and like try to barge into skits that I do like. I think it's worth that part of the character arc. The whole thing is, but yeah, bad, very bad.
Yeah, if you watch all 16 segments that they do on SNL, like near the end when it gets more referential, it's like, oh, okay, this works. Like that they are acknowledging how hated they are by everyone.
Yeah.
I looked up Dizzy Gillespie's face and neck, what's going on there. Turns out this is a pretty common thing for people who do things like play trumpet. And also, it's sometimes known as glassblower's disease. Because it happens with glass blowers when they gotta blow into a little metal pipe for their whole career.
Some kind of like herniated muscle or something. There's a video going around the internet lately with a guy in a high school band that this was happening to.
Yeah.
He also Dizzy Gillespie had basically a sack of air next to his larynx, and when there's overflow from the air, that fills up. So obviously when he's blowing, when the pressure created to either blow glass or play a trumpet results in that expanding, and then over time it becomes more pronounced because of how often he's using it. Same with glass blowers. So it is a genetic. I think they call it like Gillespie's sack or something.
Yeah, because you can be born with it and then make it worse. Essentially, the more you stress it, it can get bigger and bigger.
Yeah. So I don't think it caused him pain, but obviously he does it at the end where he does what Kermit cannot do.
Yeah.
That was very funny.
I like that Kermit is also shocked at wait a minute, how did you do that?
Yeah. It's a magic trick.
We have a running thing throughout this episode where Floyd and Zoot are hanging out on a seemingly like a bus stop bench.
They're busking. Yeah. Something.
And they're just mocking everyone who walks by with some jazz jokes.
That's really weird. They've never done anything like that before.
Yeah.
No, and I like Floyd's little red cowboy boots that he's wearing. Those are very cute.
Great.
We don't get to see his feet a lot. But I do like this. I also am a big fan of Zoot. But I like him and Floyd actually getting to do something because I feel like this is the most we've heard Zoot talk at this point.
Yeah.
I welcome more Zoot anytime.
Because he's super high all the time.
Yeah.
He's always stoned.
I mean, we see him
stoned.
in the Anne Murray episode. He literally forgets his name.
His own
Exactly.
name.
Always stoned. I also like Animal's trash can drum kit.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
Well, when he just starts, we often comment that one of our favorite things about Animal is it lets Frank Oz seemingly go off script the most. When he just starts screaming like "little lady sleeping up here," and it truly feels like a Frank Oz just
going off.
He
and
gets to
Jim's
let
off
loose.
stage just being like, Frank?
God damn it, we've talked about this.
Yeah.
There's a couple things that brought down the rating in this episode for me, which is when Kermit introduces this show as being an all-jazz evening. And then we get a veterinarian's hospital and a Jerry and the Atrix performance, which neither one have anything to do with jazz.
I love that Jerry and the Atrix. That might be my favorite part of the whole that and veterinarian's hospital are probably my two favorite parts of the episode.
They really go all out for Jerry and the Atrix. It's the second time we've seen them, and it's like such a huge production. There's so many puppeteers going, and it's so bad, but so great.
Yeah.
My guess is they probably, because the layout of this is very, it's pretty much the same thing as we watched last time with Jerry and the Atrix first performance, where I'm guessing they set that all up and they were like, okay, let's record 10 songs and we'll spread them out over some future episodes because this is very complicated and we don't want to set this up again. But the veterinarian's hospital is a pig who is here because he is lovesick. He is in love with Miss Piggy.
And he's getting his organs removed so he can spend time with her.
I also like that his Dr. Bob's brother fell into a vat of molten optical glass and made a spectacle of himself.
That's
so dumb.
That's so funny.
That's the biggest stretch between setup and punchline that there's been on Veterinarian's Hospital.
A vat of molten optical glass.
Yeah. Oh yeah, my brother fell in a vat of molten optical glass, and you're just like, what the hell is this gonna be? But it pays off, and I watched this episode twice, and both times laughed very heartily at that same joke. So good job, Dr. Bob.
The Astoria thing feels like they could have saved it for another episode, maybe. Like that could have been an episode unto itself, perhaps. And it just feels like a little crammed in here. She doesn't get the time she needs to shine.
Like that could have been the main plot of the episode, as opposed to now we have Astoria and we have the Loudness Inspector both taking over in this one.
Oh yeah.
Because he is largely inconsequential to the backstage plot. He keeps showing up and kind of causing a problem, but doesn't really matter at the end of the day. And it's also interesting that at the end they swap him out for Zoot, also performed by Dave Goelz, also plays saxophone. So it was like, all right, where do we put this guy? I guess just move the saxophone from this Dave Goelz puppet to this Dave Goelz puppet and let him go.
It's a little weird. You see Zoot so much in this episode, and then Zoot doesn't get to play saxophone at the end. It just makes you think where's Zoot? What are they doing? But I like the story. I loved her Fozzie comedy act. The Fozzie comedy acts are some of my favorite stuff in the Muppet Show, and it's just I hate that they don't do them anymore.
Yeah, we haven't seen any of them really in season 4 yet, and I think season 3 is the last time we really had a standard Fozzie comedy act, and this is the closest we've gotten to one in a while. And I love Astoria just ruining every Fozzie joke.
He finally
Yeah.
discovers something worse than bombing, which is having someone who loves what you do. So they know all of your material.
Where did I go right?
Yeah, when he's walking off stage at the end, he's like, "Thank you, you were hilarious. Like, good job." And then, yeah, the last closing number is the troubling one that we referenced earlier, where they perform a great song, but just
Yeah, it's fun.
maybe some misguided costumes.
Yeah, it's a lot going on there. I was like, I don't know how I feel about any of this.
That's what happens a lot on The Muppet Show, specifically in these episodes where some episodes you get the little warning, the content warning before the episode pops up saying, hey, we acknowledge that there are harmful stereotypes in this episode. They weren't right then, they aren't right now, but we want to acknowledge them. And then there are episodes where you don't get that warning and you feel like you should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, where is that line? I know I'm not the one to draw that line and say, but it does feel like there maybe is one in this episode that goes over a line and no one's acknowledging it this time.
Right.
Yeah.
Lastly, we watched the Anne Murray episode of The Muppet Show, which I gave 3 stars.
I gave it 4.5 stars. I love this episode.
Wow.
I also gave it 3 stars.
It almost got 2.5 from me.
I'll tell you why I love Anne Murray. The music is spectacular, and it has one of the most iconic Muppet Show performances, and I get around. But it just doesn't. It feels like the Muppets are doing a show, and she's also there.
Yes.
So it's not. But that's not her thing. It's not a knock on. It's not a knock on anybody. It's just, I think, what the episode was. So it didn't feel. It felt like 2 different shows were happening at the same time, and I didn't like the skateboarding thing.
The
Like,
skateboarding was
didn't-
weird.
It kind of wore on me after a little while.
Yeah, it's a very weak backstage plot. The fact that Scooter just is skateboarding everywhere. And I think there's a few things that happen in this episode that are some of the best Muppet Show things that have ever happened. And then there are a few things that happen on this that we talk about are some of our least favorite Muppet Show things that happen. Whereas the backstage plot has nothing to do with the guest at all. Like, she's just not really involved in the putting on of the show. Even her musical numbers are usually like detached from the Muppets in a lot of ways. And at the very end of the cold open, she does the thing that I hate the most, which is just look at the camera and go, whoa. Like,
She's so charming, though. I can't help but be okay with her doing it. She's just such a nice presence.
I think I like this episode a lot in spite of Anne Murray's role in it.
She's bringing such a nice Canadianness to this whole affair. We need that sometimes, Matt.
Champion of Canada. Still, like, she's a whole charity, or her whole thing is like driving tourism to Canada.
Yeah, a big chunk of her Wikipedia is just how many times she sung the Canadian national anthem at various sporting events. It's great.
I mean, to be fair, she was for like a big part of my childhood, like the only thing that I like heard referenced about Canada. I feel like anytime I heard anything about Canada, they were always like, Anne Murray. It's like, all right, that's all I know about Canada.
Well, she's a nice lady.
And we did watch her in the not great A Special Sesame Street Christmas special, where she sang her song "You Needed Me" in Mr. Hooper's store, and then appeared to Oscar the Grouch as the Ghost of Christmas Past, which is a very weird, bad Christmas special with almost no Christmas songs.
And Michael Jackson in it for a second. And
For
he
some
doesn't even
reason.
sing anything.
Nope. But we do open this episode again with one of the most, I guess one of the best Muppet Show numbers in history, which is I Get Around, with a bunch of pigs on a bunch of motorcycles. And this is the one I was referencing earlier, where there are about 30 men down underneath those motorcycles making this all work, because you have about...
Is there behind the scenes footage or shots of that?
Yeah, Sam. So we'll once we get through all the Muppet Show episodes, we are going to watch the documentary of Muppets and Men and discuss that. And the opening scene of Muppets and Men is the behind the scenes of this number, and it shows you that there's like 4 people on each motorcycle pushing and moving them. There's people holding fans and smoke machines, and then you have each performer standing next to the motorcycles performing their character.
That's cool. I thought they were inside the motorcycles, but they're not.
No, they're standing right next to it, like all cramped up and next to it. And it just is, it works. Like, you don't, again, if you're not doing a podcast about Muppets, you don't think about how they do these things.
Yeah.
It looks great. Everything, like just the movement of the motorcycles to Miss Piggy and how she's sort of moving on it. And it helps that the hands are attached to the handlebars, but still like it's the subtle things that the performers do make a huge difference and are what bring it to life.
Yeah, it's those things that you never think about like if you were going to do your own puppeteering or whatever like that, you're like, okay, how do I make both hands work properly, and how do I show off this and this and this? And you realize so many times when they were doing these things that completely convince you, they had one hand like sewn to a body or like shoved in a pocket or like glued onto things. And you're like, oh, they weren't even using the hands. They conveyed all this character through the eyes and the mouth alone, and you completely buy it. And it shows like, you know, obviously the designers, the builders of the puppets, that's like a big part of it. But also you can not forget the performers who, like, especially Frank Oz, bring life just into like any piece of felt he is handed.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's and the music, like they were all really good singers too. This is like everything. It shows off everything that is great about the Muppets.
Whenever Richard Hunt sings, I'm just like, this guy's voice. He's got such a nice voice.
Yeah. He sang the first episode, the Ramalama Ding Dong, as the sheep herder, and he was great. Like, it was like genuinely like, he's got a great voice.
Just so pleasant and like, yeah, lovely.
Yeah. I also love that Piggy's bike has Kermit on the kids thing.
Yeah.
We get Anne Murray singing Snowbird, which at first seems a little bit like it might be Florence Henderson-y, where she just sang by herself with some butterflies
Just a
flying
butterfly
around.
kind of flying around her. Yeah.
Thankfully, it does take a turn, and one of the weirdest puppets we've seen in a long time shows up in this dodo who comes in, who is clearing out the forest to make room for condominiums. Can't even say it.
What is this guy's fucking deal?
I don't know, but I love him.
He's a land developer.
Yeah.
He's a land developer and a real estate mogul.
And he looks like unlike any Muppet we have ever seen before. He's like from a different show, and he just stumbles in and he's like, I'm about to tear this whole thing down. You better get out of here, pretty lady.
Yeah, I
She's
feel like
okay,
between
bye.
I feel like him and Angus McGonagall are almost cut from the same cloth of like their design. And so I feel like there's like a page turn that's happening in the world of Muppet design right now, where it's like, we're going off. We're going to try some new and exciting things because we got this Dodo and we've got Angus that look a little funky compared to everything else we've got going on.
It does feel very Canadian. He feels like a cast-off puppet from Today's Special. Do you remember that show? With the mannequin that comes to life? It was a kid show in Canada.
No, it sounds scary.
where a puppet of a guy comes to life. He's wearing like a flat cap.
Oh, I've seen this.
And
before.
I think it's the security guard is a puppet in that.
Is a puppet, yeah.
That is a Canadian show. It just feels like that bird would have appeared on that show.
One of my biggest complaints with the Muppet Show is usually that it's just a musical show, and then sometimes that's a little boring. And then when you go watch Sesame Street, they have these great skits that are so funny, and my Muppet Show just doesn't have that. But this, I feel like, really like splits the difference well, where they combine the two in a way that's just like, when it's over, you're just like, what the fuck? What was that? But that's what I want to feel when I'm watching the Muppet Show. I want to be like, that was insane, but amazing.
Well, speaking of insane and amazing, in my eyes at least, we have another Coosbane number here where Green Heap and Silverbeak are just doing their most Ed Sullivan show shit that we've seen from the Muppets in a long time.
Yeah.
Where it's just Jim and Frank making noises and bouncing off of each other.
Ripping around, and yeah, just the two of them.
It's so weird.
I fully expected someone to explode or get eaten at the end of this because it felt so old school Muppets to me.
But sometimes in the old school Muppets, they'd learn a lesson about being friends, friendship on those old things.
It's a great piece about compromise,
Yes.
but also really bizarre. It does feel like they've moved past this.
Oh, yeah.
But also, it speaks to the experimenting. Like, let's do this. This is a fun thing we came up with. Let's try it.
And I think he'll go back to this. Like, Jim will go back to this with, like, the Jim Henson Hour and with stuff he does forever after this. Like, sometimes I can feel with the Muppet Show, him maybe being like, there's these characters and they're fine. But, like, that's not what the Muppets is maybe to him. The Muppets is, like, the whole world of experimenting with puppetry that he doesn't get to do as much anymore.
You've seen his experimental films, right? That he made outside of the Muppets.
Like Timepiece and The Cube.
Yes.
Yeah. I haven't seen the Cube at least, but I have seen Timepiece. Yeah.
It's very like, that's in him. That idea of like, I don't care what anybody, I'm going to just make this thing that I want to do.
Yeah.
That's
and he'd
very
go on those
Jim
old
Henson.
talk shows and be like, oh, and we used this kind of telephoto lens to shoot this thing. And everybody and Frank would be sitting next to him like, shut up. They just want to see me be They just want to see us do Menomina, dude. Just please shut up.
No, but the editing is so quickly paced,
I
and
was
we really worked
interested in
this time.
quick
And
paced. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I am happy for him when he gets to do this kind of thing, because I'm sure he's just pleased as punch when he's like, ooh, we get to go beep, bonk, beep, bonk. That's my favorite thing to do.
Let's make something weird. Come on.
yeah. Speaking of something weird, we have Milton Miller and his Farmyard Philharmonic Trio. Sam, you said you liked this?
I fucking loved it.
Oh, this is my least favorite thing in the episode, I think.
It was so funny. I loved how his stick kept breaking because he was whacking the animal so hard.
It is a fun number.
Yeah, and he's like, please sing along. Why aren't you folks singing along with me? I like ones that feel like they're on stage, like reacting to the audience too. I just thought it was like, I don't know. It was just a fun, weird thing.
He reminded me a lot of a character we saw back in the Sylvester Stallone episode, who was Professor Albert Flan, who brought out his robot performer, who looked exactly like Elmo. And we only saw that guy once, and I think there's a reason that he should have stayed sort of like a one-time archetype character. And I feel like this guy reminds me too much of him, and I don't like either of them. And Zoot, as we mentioned earlier, is too stoned in this episode to remember what he's up to, who he is, what he plays in the band. But Anne Marie, thankfully, is there to help him out and transitions it into a nice little song, which is good because at first I was a little worried that this was just like it. Like that was the sketch, was just Zoot walks in and Anne Marie goes, "You're Zoot. Here is your saxophone."
No, I love this, and I was like, oh, Dr. Teeth out in the cold again. But no, he's back from rehab, apparently. And gets to play piano.
Because even in the Dizzy Gillespie episode, he was like facing backwards. Like he was there, but you didn't get to see his face in that episode.
Yeah, he was using again.
That could have been anybody.
Oh, his eyes were extremely dilated, and
Yeah,
I
you
just
can't-
couldn't.
You want to see it?
No.
He was just propped up.
It's a terrible disease addiction.
Yeah.
The weird dancing on the ceiling, which also we talked about Ghostbusters, and inspiration. What do you think inspired the scene where Dan Aykroyd has a ghost
Infamous
go
ghost
down on
blowjob.
him?
It is Beauregard and his ghost wife.
It's
That's
Beauregard.
who.
I'm looking at a picture of it, and you can see he's already looking at the camera like,
Oh.
like, all right, the ghost is here.
The ghost is
Yeah.
here. You know what that means when the ghost is here? I wasn't sure she was supposed to be a ghost. I thought she maybe was just incidentally see-through because of how they had to do it. Because she falls down,
She's a ceiling ghost.
I suppose.
Say that's her name on Muppet Wiki, so I
Yeah,
guess
so she must be.
one of those famous Muppets that is named after their one appearance and the thing they do in that.
Yeah, it'd be funny if she became a big star and it was just like Kermit and the ceiling ghost. They're on an adventure together.
Is this also where we learn that Beauregard lives in the apartment below Jerry and the Atrix?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
They
like,
live
you
in the
know,
same apartment
they
building?
are constantly
They're so loud.
loud and performing with like 20 of them crammed into a room, and they're getting mad at him for his
For his
like
one
ghost wife.
ghost wife dancing on the ceiling.
Well, it is a hole.
I think we're on. Yes, we're proving again that they're cribbing from the Muppet Show. For all of popular culture comes from the Muppet Show, including the most beloved scene in Ghostbusters.
Yes,
the
the one
ghost
that
blowjob scene.
Everybody remembers and talks about all the time.
Yeah, definitely not the one you forget about until you go back to watch the movie and you're like showing your like 10-year-old cousin Ghostbusters for the first time and you're like, ah, shit. Oh no.
What's that ghost doing?
Yeah.
Hey, I was 7 when I saw that movie. 10 years old is like that's you should already be watching documentaries about Deep Throat at that age, for goodness sakes.
You already know about the ghost birds and bees.
Yeah. When a ghost and a Ghostbuster love each other very much. He lays down in the firehouse and she gives him a special kiss. Now go wash up for dinner.
Well, I think that's the best way to sum up the Anne Marie episode. I think right there we just did it. That just shows you exactly what Anne
Shows her
Marie episode was all
respect.
about.
She did a good job.
And the closing number in this is Anne Marie singing "Everything Old is New Again," while skateboard tricks, in quotes, are performed around her, which is just
they hadn't invented any skateboard tricks yet, so they couldn't do any of them.
None of the Dogtown boys, the Z boys,
Yeah,
were tearing it up in Dogtown. We didn't know about that yet.
yeah.
That's why I love this idea. Like we've had Muppets on rollerblades in the past too, like skating around, and the idea that when you think about it for more than a second, there's nothing below the waist of that Muppet. There is no skateboard. There is no skates. There is nothing. It is just a puppet with its arms rigged up in a weird pose, sliding back and forth across the stage with a 40-year-old man running around underneath it. Like, that is what Scooter is actually doing. But we believe that he is on a skateboard.
I didn't really believe he was on a skateboard.
Sam, where is your sense of whimsy?
My goodness.
Speaking of the characters with a name that is just because it's the thing they do, this episode is the first episode where we see Trumpet Girl, who is part of the orchestra, become Trombone Girl. Her name doesn't change, but this is the first time she will play trombone because once Lips is introduced in season 5, Lips becomes the trumpet player around here.
Does she stick around as a trombone player?
Yeah, we still see her around for a while, and she pops up, I think, even in the 2011 movie. She's just there.
Okay.
So, yeah, she's always around, but she will forever be known as Trumpet Girl. And now it's time for this week's Muppet of the Week. This week's Muppet of the Week is Angus McGonagall, the Argyle gargoyle who gargles Gershwin gorgeously. And there's not much to say about him because this is his introduction. It's the first time we've met Angus.
Is it the last time we meet Angus?
Surprisingly not.
He shows up. I think he shows up in the Anne Murray episode, doesn't he?
Was he in there?
Is he there at the end skateboarding?
Oh, I didn't even pay attention to all the random ones. I know he's in the background of at least a season 5 episode, I think the Gene Kelly episode. And he shows up a couple more times in the background, like in the Muppets Go to the Movies, and he's in the audience on Muppets Tonight. And he even shows up in some of the comic books later on that are put out. So he's around for a while, but not doing anything nearly as noteworthy as this episode with Mark Hamill. He is a gargoyle, I guess. Like, that's a weird
Suppose.
Doesn't really look like one.
Is gargoyles a Scottish thing? Because the gargoyles and the cartoon gargoyles are also Scottish.
Oh.
Explain that one.
I think it's a general European thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have gargoyles and grotesques, and the difference is gargoyles are rainspouts.
Oh. Is that why he's gargling? He's constantly got
Yeah.
water running through him?
Exactly. He's constantly got water running through him. That
All right.
tongue is very disturbing.
Yeah. If you look at the original design sketch of Angus McGonagall, he does not have the big tongue. But at some point in the process, someone was like, what if we gave him a big old nasty tongue?
I mean, your tongue doesn't stick out when you gargle. I don't think. Yeah, it doesn't.
But yeah, he is, for those that maybe haven't looked up Angus at this point, he is purple, he has bright orange hair, and is dressed in green plaid. A tartan that I was not able to identify in my research, and I even asked the internet and Muppet Wiki, and Muppet Wiki retweeted it, and nobody has been able to answer this question yet of what.
It's his own family tartan.
Yeah.
But it's not
it's the Argyle.
It's not the Argyle, though. I looked it up.
No?
No. It's not the Argyle
Damn it.
tartan. It's not the McGonagall tartan. It's nothing that I could find.
It's the gargoyle tartan.
I guess, yeah, it's the unofficial gargoyle tartan. But yeah, he's performed by Jerry Nelson, who has said about performing Angus, quote, "I wish there was footage of us trying to gargle and then sing. We all tried it, even Jim. We were all cracking up at each other. It was hilarious. We ended up with Richard Hunt doing the gargling and me singing the lyric."
He was singing? I maybe missed that.
He was doing Summertime. Maybe he was singing along so that you could follow it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I do remember that.
there wasn't like very clear lyrics happening.
No.
Yeah, and the only other real thing about Angus worth mentioning is that apparently in 2016, Scooter tweeted, which is just a weird sentence, saying that he is the chairman of an obscure Muppets support group, of which Angus McGonagall is the secretary and treasurer. It's a bit of a bummer to me that Scooter says he is the chairman of the obscure Muppets.
Scooter's like one of the top 5 or 6 Muppets, I would say. Everybody knows Scooter.
Well, and at that point, he was even, they had just done the ABC show. So, like, he was a big, prominent part of that.
Maybe because he's the outsider of the outsiders.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't get a
He's got
Lego,
bad self.
so he
Yeah,
can't be
that's
that
true.
important if he didn't get a
Where's
Lego.
his Lego? Damn
He
it.
got to be on Statler's laptop for some reason, though.
We don't talk about that.
That's-
Don't kink shame.
So, if you had to give Angus McGonagall a rating out of 10 stars, what would you rate Angus McGonagall based on what you've seen of him?
What, we do 10 now? Gosh, that's brutal. I'm 2. I don't care about him at all.
See, I would give him maybe a 4 because I like his vibe, but he doesn't really do much.
Yeah, I'd give him a 4. It's not. I mean, he's not the worst I've ever seen, but that tongue, maybe a 3. The tongue.
The tongue brought
I'll
him
give
down
him
a bit.
3 for the tongue. It's too disturbing.
He does look not bad for a one-off Muppet. Sometimes they're one-off Muppets, basically. They can look pretty lazy, but he's looking good.
All right, so before we go, Hal, I like to ask Sam if he enjoyed any non-Muppet things this week. So I guess I'll ask you before I ask Sam, what non-Muppet thing did you enjoy this week?
The Fred Savage controversy of it all notwithstanding, the new Wonder Years is fantastic. And there was a new episode this week that I watched that I really enjoyed. I think it's a fantastic show, and it's worth watching. I don't think it's great because of Fred Savage. I think it's great because of the cast and the writers, and I hope it gets another season because it's fantastic.
I have not watched that.
I've only watched the first episode. I haven't gone through and watched the rest yet.
Oh, it gets better, and I think
nice.
the first episode's very good, but it gets better. It gets even better from there.
What time period is it set in?
It's set in the exact same time as the original Wonder Years, but in Alabama.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like the late
that's
60s
interesting.
Vietnam era, right?
Yeah, it's like 660. Well, the first episode is Martin Luther King,
That's right.
so it's 68.
Yeah.
Huh.
There's always those times when we talk about shows that are set in like the 60s and 70s when we're like, are they going to do something where they reference the Muppets? Like, are they like, because like I'm watching Dick Van Dyke, the old Dick Van Dyke show, and I'm like, this is around the same time as like Rolf was on Jimmy Dean. Like, there could be something where they reference like that dog
Jimmy
puppet
Dean,
on that
at least.
show.
Yeah.
And the closest they get is they have a ventriloquist with a snail puppet on that show. And I'm like, this could be a little bit of a weird Jim Henson reference, but they didn't go quite there.
Yeah.
Sam, what non-Muppet thing did you enjoy this week?
I didn't really watch anything. We ran out of stuff to watch. Now I can watch Wonder Years.
You
We were
finished
just
Vampire
watching-
Diaries?
Oh, God, no.
Oh,
I
you-
still have like 3 seasons of Vampire Diaries left.
Have you watched Abbott Elementary?
Yeah, I've watched that.
Okay, you watched that.
Yeah. So we're in between. But I'll
Below
watch Wonder
Deck on
Years.
Peacock. You can watch every season of that.
What's that?
It's a reality show about
Oh.
the crew of a luxury yacht that gets chartered by rich people. And so it's about the people who work on the boat, and also about the crazy people who actually charter the boat.
Is it good?
I mean, it's as good as a reality show can be. Like it's what you want out of a reality show if you watch reality shows.
All right.
Okay.
And then
I'll
also
check that
Survivor.
out.
If you've never watched Survivor, is the greatest game ever played. Watch every single season. It's all on Paramount Plus, and the new season is great. And I watched that this week and loved it.
Did you watch the new Star Trek?
I have not watched it yet,
I
but it
wanna
looks
watch
great.
that. We're about to sign up for Paramount Plus so that we can watch the new Star Trek because we've heard good things. And it has a guy from the Vampire Diaries in it. So very exciting for me. Matt, how about you?
I've weirdly, the last few days, been playing a lot of FIFA 22. And-
Before the license goes away.
Well, yeah, but also because it's a free game on PlayStation Network this month. And usually there's like a lot of free games where I'm like, I have no interest in that, and I don't download it. Or I'll download it and never play it. And I don't watch soccer at all. Don't really have a big interest in soccer, but I've been pulled into that game and just been playing it the last 2 or 3 days, like nonstop.
Oh, I have to check that out.
It's
Thank
very
you for the
weird.
tip.
Yeah, free download right now, but it's did not expect to get that into it of like managing contracts and negotiating for players, and I'm like, that sounds like a decent amount of money. Sure, I don't know anything about your league.
But you love that kind of stuff. You like hockey and wrestling games too. So
Yeah, but I
that seems
watch
like-
hockey and wrestling.
Well,
Right.
yeah.
I don't
but,
watch soccer
you know,
at all. I know nothing about it.
A sport's a sport. You've seen one, you've seen them all.
That's what they say. So before we get out of here, Hal, where can people find you on the internet, and what should they go and watch and listen for you?
You can follow me at Hal Lublin on all social media, but Twitter is the only place I really post regularly. You can listen to my podcast, We Got This, with Mark and Hal, and Tights and Fights on the Maximum Fun Network. Good Morning Night Vale on the Night Vale Presents Network. You can find me on the last 2 seasons of The Venture Brothers and the new Squirrel Girl Unbeatable radio show, which is now being released. We're in the middle of its release. I play MODOK in a couple of episodes of that, so check it out. It's a lot of fun.
And yeah, if anyone wants to find a nice entry episode into Tights and Fights, I've been on a couple episodes.
Yes, you have.
One where we talked all about the Muppets' appearance on Monday Night Raw.
Oh, I'm excited
Yes,
for that.
that's kind of
Did
the
they
perfect.
beat any of the Muppets up?
Oh yeah, and some
They
of the
do?
Muppets help beat up some of the wrestlers as well.
Yes.
We do find out Beaker is related to one of the wrestlers, so there's always that.
Oh, he's related to the redheaded guy.
Yeah,
right?
Seamus.
Yeah.
That guy.
So yeah, if you want to go hear us talk about Muppets on a different podcast, I was on Tights and Fights.
Yes, great episode. well, 2 episodes. You've been on a couple times, and always a great guest. So either
Well,
one of
thank
those
you.
are a great onboarding point for people who listen to this.
I was on one of the most formative episodes of Titan Fights in history of Titan Fights because I was on an episode which was not supposed to be about Muppets, but we realized during that episode that one of the old wrestlers, Shawn Michaels, in his older years, has started to sound a little bit like Cookie Monster in the way he talks. And Hal went off on a run of a Cookie Shawn impression that has now not only happened many times on Titan Fights, but also has become like the mascot of Titan Fights. And this year's Maximum Fun patch perk was a like Cookie Monster inspired championship title.
Yeah, and we did a pin once that was Sweet Chip music. So really, like you were there for one of the great running bits.
Yeah, I feel
in
very
show
honored
history.
to be there for such a formative instance in Titan Fights.
I don't think it would have happened without you. Weren't you the one who made the observation?
I won't lay claim to that right
That
now.
sounds like
It may have
something you'd
happened.
say, though.
It seems like likely that I would mention Muppets.
Yeah, I'm just gonna give you credit for it. Let's just put it out there.
I'll take it. You're welcome, Titan Fights listeners. So before we go, we want to let everyone know what we're watching next time. And oh boy, strap in. Next week, we're going to be watching 3 more Season 4 episodes of The Muppet Show. And the guests are Jonathan Winters, Alan Arkin, and Doug Henning. And I think at least maybe 2 of them, if not all 3, have a content warning before the beginning of them.
Oh, great.
But we'll also be watching Kermit perform Rainbow Connection at the 1980 Oscars, which is delightful, and an appearance by Jim Henson on the Today Show talking about the famous Muppet pipes. So we want to give a huge thanks to Hal for joining us today.
Thank you, Hal.
Yeah, thanks for coming and talking Muppets with us.
Thank you
and
for having me. It was a blast.
definitely highly recommend at least the episodes of We Got This about different Muppet things and all the fun Muppet guests you had on there, but just in general, all of the Hal podcasts universe out there in the world. Everyone should go check those out.
The Lublin verse is real.
You are just like, you pop up everywhere. You are just like, you're like, oh yeah, Night Vale. Oh yeah, Venture Brothers. Oh yeah, now you're in Marvel. Like,
My plan is working.
you are MODOK. You're just taking over. And before we go, we also need to thank our friend Tuna for making the music for this podcast and Cassie Wilson for singing our theme song. Don't forget, you can head on over to commitment.com to pick up a Commitment logo enamel pin and check out our Patreon page where we do fun live streams and we play the old Atari Commitment video games, Muppet video games.
Maybe someday, Matt.
Maybe someday we'll make
It'll be a podcast simulator. It'll be like Matt's contract needs to be re-upped. $45 million? Sounds reasonable to me. I
only
don't make podcasts.
released exclusively on the Atari system. But you can follow this podcast on Twitter and Instagram at CommitmentPod, where we tweet out the things that we're going to watch and just share some of the fun clips from the episodes. And you can follow me on the internet at Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And as always, keep believing.
Keep pretending.